The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I'd like to introduce you to the Portland Trailblazers. With 85% of the league coming up on December 15th and being able to be traded, and Christmas coming up, there's a lot of trade rumors, a lot going on. There's a lot of teams who are going to have to change how they're doing things, and they're just kind of stuck. This is where continuity is not good. That was a buzzword a couple of years ago where everybody wanted to talk about roster continuity. Well, if your roster kind of isn't great and you don't grow from within, that just leads to stagnation. We got a handful of teams in there, Portland being the big one. We've got Dame rumors, we've got CJ rumors, we've got Sacramento sucking and saying, let's figure something out. You've got Ben Simmons, who I'm really interested in because I've got him on both my fantasy teams, and I need him to get traded because he hasn't played a game. Can't stay on the injured list forever. Now, Portland needs to change. They've been talked about forever. It feels like it's gone as far as it can go. And Dame is kind of sticking to his guns about wanting to be there, wanting to be the solution. Well, something's got to change then. That means the rest of the roster is going to get moved around. Who does that include? Well, CJ McCollum is a great asset. He can move out. Dame's been talking about wanting to play with Ben Simmons, or at least that's what's being put out into the media. That would be a pretty good fit. I think Dame off the ball, Ben being a defensive monster and all-around player except for the shooting part is a pretty good fit there. And you could maybe slot in somebody else because Dame makes a big chunk of money and wants another $107 million added on in 2 years. CJ and Simmons, their money kind of lines up. And then you got to move around your other pieces like Nurkic and all that assets, if you will. Now, they aren't the only team that's kind of stuck. There's a handful in here, Indiana Pacers, who are super vanilla and have been talked about on a number of podcasts. They're not growing. They don't have a lot of pieces who are going to get a lot better. And I think the experiment with Sabonis and Turner, it's time for one of them to go. I think Sabonis is the one. If it were me and I'm the Pacers, I'd want to move Sabonis to try to keep Turner because you get some shot blocking, more made threes. Sabonis a little more old school, but whoever they keep isn't a loss. They're functional and can get a decent asset. With all these 85% of players being able to be moved, hopefully they can be in the mix. Philadelphia is on this list for different reasons. They got to move Simmons. If they're going to move forward, they can't be stuck in limbo with this. It sounds like with all the chatter, he's going to get moved. It's the old if there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing. Or this is just me hoping he gets moved for fun and for my fantasy team. But I think a change of scenery for him is good. Portland would be a good fit. There's articles out there talking about him and the Spurs, but I don't know that the Spurs have assets anybody really wants. And Sacramento's another place. Sacramento is just one of those things where people will talk about their players, but nothing's really happening with their team. They're not moving forward. They're kind of at the lower end of the play-in, and they're kind of always going to be there. It feels like their players might be better off somewhere else because that organization just kind of sucks. De'Aaron Fox has been somebody people have talked about having a ton of potential. Well, he's been in the league 4 years. He's 23 years old. There certainly is lots of development left, but I don't think it's going to happen in Sacramento because they just can't get it together. Now, Dallas is another name on this list because they weren't able to make any real moves. Not that they could. Porzingis is really the only asset, if you want to call him that they could trade, and he had a long way to go to prove that he could be healthy and contribute and be part of a winning team. So I don't know that they're going to move him, especially given how much money he makes. So they got to find a way to get better from within or make a deal or be part of a move. They're not getting a ton of free agents. They re-signed Tim Hardaway Jr., which it's okay. They're operating around the fringes. They will get better just because Luka's going to get better. He doesn't look that great right now. He looks like he's been injured and he's a little heavy. It doesn't look like he was able to get a lot of work in the offseason. When he came in last year, he looked super fit. I think there's something going on there that we don't know about because I've watched him a couple times. He's kind of gimpy. He's playing. It feels like he's playing on one leg, and he's still dominating. He's super young. JJ Barea on one podcast talked about how once he figures it out, and gets older, starts working on his body, it's going to be a disaster for the rest of the league. So Dallas is on my list that they're kind of stagnant. Maybe Denver. And I say this because Michael Porter Jr. just went in for back surgery. He was a big piece. The rest of their players, they can fill in around the margins, but they were counting on him developing into a real player, and came into the season, seemed as if he was banged up, and now shut down for surgery. We know Jamal Murray's out. Can they make a move? Jokic is just unreal. I watched the other night, and he makes everybody better. Not only is he putting up near triple-double numbers and getting the best from every other team, but the passing seems to be contagious. He moves it around. They move it around. It's pretty crisp. I like that they have Aaron Gordon, who kind of fits the new wave four-man. He's not really a three-point shooter, but he can make threes. Ball handling, rebounding, defense. You're getting a lot from him, and I like that piece. With Murray, once he's back, if they can get MPJ to really contribute and stay healthy and develop, they're a contending team. But right now, they're on my maybe list. So are the Boston Celtics. What are the Boston Celtics? What are they doing? Where are they going? I thought Peyton Pritchard was going to be a mini Kyle Lowry, and then when I watch the games, he's not getting a lot of minutes. Time Lord hasn't really broken out. Some of their younger picks. Jason Tatum hasn't become that elite player that we were hoping for, and that's talked about. Not that he can't be. I mean, both he and Jaylen Brown are super young, and they can definitely develop into great players, and they are really good players. But Boston as a team, there just seems to be something not coming together, and we'll see what happens. At the quarter, this isn't the quarter point, this is 1/3. How do you say that? That doesn't sound very good. Anyhow, we're a third of the way into the season, and there's a couple of players that I want to talk about specifically, both named Bridges. Mikhail Bridges and Miles Bridges. They are really stepping into being real contributing players on winning teams. Miles Bridges on Charlotte, he shot 40% for three last year, and he's not shooting as well this year, but he's getting a lot more attention. He's making more plays off the dribble. He's super athletic. I think his game is really rounding into something that will age well as his athleticism goes down. His stroke looks for real. Both these guys were drafted in 2018, so there's a ton of time left for them to really become even better. Miles Bridges, I think, he's turned down a 4-year, $60 million deal, and he's going to get paid this summer. Somebody's going to throw a ton of money at him. I love him with LaMelo Ball. Super fun to watch. They got a lot of switchable pieces in that 6'8" size, 6'7", 6'8", with Hayward, Bridges, Kelly Oubre, and LaMelo. Like, you roll those guys out, and either you go small and you put another guard with them, or you go big and you put a center with them if they ever get one. Miles Plumlee is serviceable, as we should say. P.J. Washington plays a ton with them. So you got a whole lineup of guys 6'8", which is kind of weird. Mikhail Bridges, you saw at the end of last season how impactful he was defensively. You're seeing it even more so as DeAndre Ayton has really developed into a backline defender that's gained a lot of their trust. So they can just jump on passing lanes and get out there and run. It's super fun to watch them defensively. They are a team we expected to be good. The Phoenix Suns are good. Bridges' offensive game has really come around too, making threes, doing a little bit in the mid-range. He can do some off the bounce. He's really, really turning into a contributing player on a championship team. And you could see it. Sometimes guys just need time to develop. It's early. Their rookie year, their first 2 years, they need to be taught, mentored, learn how to play. And those two guys specifically are examples of how that can really come around. Now let's move on to some surprises and disappointments coming from what we talked about, the preseason previews where I talked about what teams are going to be. Now, let's start with the Lakers. I don't think what they're doing is working. Sure, there's still time left, but it doesn't. If you watch them play, there's just something missing. There's a ton of coasting. They're just not getting after it. They're not exciting. LeBron has been hurt. AD has not been the dominant player that you think he is or that you want him to be. And Westbrook has kind of been struggling to find his footing, turning things over, getting out there, and just not working out, I don't think. I don't like the fit. And sure, there's time. I think they could develop into something, but they're not an elite team to me in the West or in the NBA. Now, who's stepping into that role, I think, or at least in the standings is Memphis. Even without Ja, they've won 5 games or something. He's out with a knee injury. He's coming back in a week or two, I think. I hope. He's on one of my fantasy teams that I really need him to come back. And they look good. They are the idea of, continuity working and building through the draft, and the opposite of the teams we talked about earlier who are stagnating. They're looking really, really good, and they're fun to watch, and Ja is just electric and growing as a player. And if Zion doesn't get healthy, he might be the steal of that draft and the best player because Zion hasn't played a game. Now, another team on this list for me, and we'll just talk about it quickly, is how much better the Golden State Warriors are than we could have thought they were, or at least I did. I thought they could be good. Return to dynasty? No. They definitely invested in a lot of those young guys that played in the years where they were crappy. Jordan Poole specifically and Damian Lee have really rounded into players who are making an impact for them. And when Clay comes back, what do? How good are they going to be in February? They were 20-4. You knew Phoenix was going to be good. I didn't think Golden State was going to be this good, and they've looked unreal. And Steph has had some pretty rough games. He's 33, and he's MVP. Right now, I think they had the straw poll for ESPN, and he got 94 out of 100 first-place votes. A pretty good year. And he's had some off games, but they just play so well together, and they are so fun to watch. Now, who's not fun to watch right now are the Knicks. Typically with Tibbs teams, it's a short rotation, and the guys who play a ton, and they're super comfortable. And that's what you saw with Julius Randle, was just the swagger that he was going to be out there and have the ball in his hands. While they brought in Kemba and Evan Fournier, who are guys who do a little bit of ball handling, that takes the ball out of Randle's hands, so he's not getting the same amount of touches. They're trying to integrate these guys. It's not working. They've pulled Kemba out of the rotation. I think you're going to see a return to what they were doing before. Their defense hasn't been quite as elite, so we'll give them it's coming. I think they'll do better, but they're kind of in the middle of the pack in the East. Everybody from 4 to 10 is like 3 games separating them. So you go on a 6-game winning streak, you could be winning your division or winning the top seed in the playoffs. So it's early. We're a third of the way into the season. Anything can happen. Cleveland, really. The Cleveland Cavaliers are a lot better than I thought they were going to be. They are definitely a big surprise. The rookie they have, Evan Mobley, he's legit. He changes the game defensively. Offensively, he's better than you think. His game is very quietly mature. And if you look at what he's doing now in the minute details, he in year 2, year 3 is going to be a destroyer of worlds. Pairing him with Jared Allen has looked great. Darius Garland has been, better. I mean, I don't know if he can guard a fence pole or his shooting's really going to come around. He makes shots, but he shoots a lot. Not having Colin Sexton has given him a lot of rope. And Ricky Rubio has been great for that team. He has made them so much better. Leadership, ball handling, passing, and Kevin Love in a sort of mentoring role off the bench. He was a superstar, Evan Mobley could learn a lot from him. I think Cleveland's got a nice mix right now. I don't think anybody could have picked them being this good. The Bulls, man, are they fun to watch. They're like a coiled spring. When you've got Lonzo and Caruso and Zach LaVine out there, I mean, their whole team has COVID right now, so it might be a while before you see them all together. I think they have 9 guys down, but they're fun to watch. They get in the passing lanes. They pressure. They turn it into offense. And Caruso and Lonzo have a chemistry that's pretty incredible. And the other two guys are just playing off it. DeRozan was player of the week a couple weeks ago. And Zach LaVine's playing great. I don't think anybody thought they were going to be this good. And their defense has been really, really impressive. So I don't think anybody could have thought that they were going to be this. You could have said, yeah, they're going to be good. Not this. They are electric to watch. They lack a little bit of depth, but they're super fun. One other team we're going to touch on is the Milwaukee Bucks. A lot of injuries, COVID, start slow, but they are, again, the idea of continuity working. And they got better. Surprising to say, Grayson Allen fit really well with them. And Dante DiVincenzo still isn't even back. So you're going to add those guys. Brook Lopez has a back injury. He's not doing that great right now. They brought in Boogie Cousins, who is, a decent Band-Aid. And who knows, maybe he sticks around and competes and adds something to them going into the playoffs. I don't think he's a big impact guy. But, hey, you don't need him to be. If he wins you a couple of games or helps you tread water, you're looking good. So I think the Bucks are better than everybody thinks. Or not everybody, maybe better than everybody thought. And the Nets without Kyrie just aren't it. So, I don't know. You let me know what I miss. Is there anything you wanted to talk about? You wanted me to talk about? This is what I got. First, I'm going to shout out to my guy Quan. I own you. And like if you like. Comment if you got something to say. And subscribe at your own risk.